What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this NBA 2-game playoff slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NBA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA 2-game playoff slate. But first, let's go over some Patreon success. Some more success yesterday for me in the esports realm. If you guys are looking for another sport to play after the NBA playoffs do end, I highly recommend you check out their Patreon here. Cashed in pretty much every CSGO contest and took down the small GBP $27 into $165, $100, $220, doubled up there. We had some more success here with MLB, a close takedown from one of our coaches, Puna Ray. We had this is my screenshot again, $100 into $800, $50 into $250, and $50 into $135. We had some more success here on SuperDraft, $25 doubled up into $50. We had some more success in NBA yesterday, $26 into $93.30, and a takedown here, $1,250 won by this user and a small GBP, it looks like. So always talk about small GBPs, and another small takedown by Puna Ray. I believe TJ had a takedown too. Yeah, little takedown here, $500 winner, 324 points and 0.75. Looks like to be really close to the optimal. The one guy, the one horrible play here was Thibault, 9.5 fantasy points, but he was inserted into the starting lineup right before lock, so it had to make that pivot, but unfortunately it didn't turn out for him. But a great lineup all the way around. Our core was Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Hachimura, and Gafford. All those guys, with the exception of Gafford, who didn't underperform but did decent, did okay, was fire last night. All right, now let's focus on this 2-game NBA slate. We have two competitive matchups, hopefully, with the Lakers being a 2-point favorite at home. Very interesting. I didn't expect them to be the favorite. If I'm a betting man, I'm betting on the Phoenix Suns based on what they did last game, even though the Lakers are playing at home. Denver right now playing Portland. Portland is a 5-point favorite at home. So again, both games are supposed to be relatively competitive. Really nothing going on in terms of injuries here with the very first game. Denver without Will Barton and Dozier. They've been out for a little bit now. Same thing with Zach Collins for Portland, so it doesn't really impact the picture there. With Phoenix, with Alexander and Nader officially out, doesn't really impact the picture in terms of usage or minutes. Chris Paul, technically questionable, but they're leaning more towards probable. He's already told the coach he's not sitting any one of these games. Said the shoulder is fine, so we're expecting him to be playing his full minutes, assuming this does stay close to competitive. With the Lakers, Anthony Davis and Caldwell Pope are major slate-breaking injury news here, pending slate-breaking injury news. If AD is sitting out, then yes, usage goes way up for LeBron James and the rest of this crew. Talking about Kuzma, even Caldwell Pope if he plays, Schroeder, like all these guys will get a tremendous boost in usage. However, I expect him to play. They're going to need AD tonight if they want to win this game and force a game 6 and 7. So I do think he plays. I think Caldwell Pope is going to play, and I do think these guys are going to be playing full minutes. AD, however, is risking injury at this point, but they're going to need him. LeBron James, again, is expected to play tonight as well, and definitely should. All right, switching over to the slate, let's take a look. We're going to go game by game, team by team, and just talk about every single player as a whole and if they're going to be GPP or cash viable. Starting with the Denver Nuggets here, we're going to go point per dollar value here. Monte Morris is actually showing fantastic on the sheet without Will Barton, Dozier, and Jamal Murray on the court. He's averaging 0.91 fantasy points per minute, and his minutes are kind of all over the place. Last game, he played a tremendous amount of minutes. The 2 games before that, he played 25, and then the game before that, played 30. So I think they just ride the hot hand at this point, and Monty Morris could definitely catch fire. It's between him and Austin Rivers, who's going to be getting that extended role. They did force overtime last game, so keep in mind that all these minutes are going to be inflated when I pull up these game logs. They're playing like 50-plus minutes with some of these players, especially Damian Lillard. So just take this with a grain of salt, but Monty Morris did play 41 minutes. They did see him down the stretch. 28 minutes is what he's projected to play in this game because they don't really know what to do with his minutes. I do like him for GPP. He's only showing 25.2% ownership on a 2-game slate that's really, really low. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be the most obvious play on the slate by far. Got the price decrease. Even after his 51-point performance, again, it wasn't overtime, but he would have hit value and then some even in regulation. So like him, projected 34 minutes, he's averaging over a fantasy point per minute, 1.18 fantasy points per minute, and a 5.8 point per dollar value. He's one of the most obvious value plays and pay-up options on the slate by far, and he's really the only guy that's noteworthy here that's gotten a decrease in price tag here on the Denver Nuggets. Jokic, just a safe play, 35 minutes. He got 77 points. Last game, he shot 31 times. Again, it was in overtime, so take this with a grain of salt. 35 projected minutes. He's just kind of there, showing 39.2% ownership. It's going to be between him, Damian Lillard, LeBron James, AD, who you're going to be paying up for. I think he's the safer option here for paying up. I think Damian Lillard has the highest ceiling, and I also think LeBron without AD is also a safe play, but if AD does play, which we expect him to, then I'm completely off LeBron and AD for pay-up options. So yeah, I do like Jokic. I think it's a borderline cash GPP option. Austin Rivers, same exact thing as Monty Morris. Technically, he's carrying a little bit more ownership than Monty Morris, so I like Monty Morris as a pivot. Monty Morris is showing $200 more and is more productive when he's on the court. Aaron Gordon he's showing higher ownership now, 26.2% ownership. He only played 39 minutes last game in double OT, so we expect him to only play 30 minutes. He's not that productive, 0.86 fantasy points per minute. Not thrilled about that, so just GPP options for him. JaMychal Green, Campazzo, like all these guys look to be overpriced in my opinion. Switching over to the Portland Trailblazers, my favorite play on the slate, other than Michael Porter Jr., is going to be CJ McCollum. 7.6K, just shows fantastic on their sheet, averaging 1.15 fantasy points per minute, 41.6% ownership, so he is going to be a decent pay-up option, a mid-range value play here. He's showing the best value for the pay-up options, even over Michael Porter Jr. I just think Michael Porter Jr. is going to be safer given the pace of the matchup and just based on the minute upside there with Michael Porter Jr., given his 1.18 fantasy points per minute. But CJ McCollum's right there next to him. He could easily outperform Michael Porter Jr. Consider him a nice little pivot. We have him pinned for 46 points at a 7.6K price tag, and that's just very, very high for a guy playing 40 minutes. Nurkic, just a big, streaky player. Only played 24 minutes last game. He was in foul trouble, obviously fouled out of the game. If he stays on the court, 1.31 fantasy points per minute, 32 projected minutes, yes, he's a fantastic play, but that's a huge what if at this point. I feel like he fouls out every other game or gets close to it. He's showing a great amount of ownership at that price tag, so I consider him cash viable. Just be prepared to be heartbroken from playing Nurkic. Robert Covington, 37.6% ownership, has been stepping up as of late, has really slammed value his past 3 contests, still showing that 10.6% usage, 9 and 10% usage his past 3 games. So I'm not in love with him. I don't hate him. If he's the last piece, I won't hate you for it. But again, that price tag is just very, very aggressive for a guy that's only averaging 0.8 fantasy points per minute. I love his minutes, don't love his production. So just be prepared yet again to be heartbroken from Robert Covington. Damian Lillard, it is what it is. 92.5 points. Was the talk of the town last game. Just a crazy career game from him. I can't hate you for fading or for playing him in cash. I can't hate you for fading him just because he is very aggressive in price tag. Just be prepared for him to drop 92. It's Damian Lillard in the playoffs. I don't really have an opinion at this point. His ceiling is so high. His usage was way down last game. I'm assuming that's because he just shot the ball every single time. That's all I have to say. He's showing a 5.3 point per dollar value. In terms of value, I do prefer McCollum, Nurkic, and Covington over Damian Lillard, but I am certainly not confident in saying that. I honestly just like the value here out of McCollum a lot more. $7,600 for a guy that's going to be shooting almost as much as Damian Lillard. I'm going to take that price tag. And again, no disrespect to Damian Lillard. He is phenomenal. One of my favorite players to watch, but you just got to take the value where it is. All right, next on the list, Carmelo Anthony, Norman Powell, Simons, like all these guys are going to be GPP options for me, and they're still showing a decent amount of ownership. And again, you have to consider that this game is a lot higher paced than the other game, 20-point difference here. So if you're looking for high upside, it's definitely going to be from the Denver Nuggets and Portland game. And then last but not least, Phoenix Suns versus the Lakers. All the ownership will be relatively low for these guys. And Chris Paul is actually showing a decent amount of ownership, which I actually agree with. I was assuming he was going to be lower owned just based on his production as of late and based on the amount of minutes that he played last game. Again, it was a blowout, so take this with a grain of salt. Only played 23 minutes. We expect him to play about 32. And if he is playing 32 minutes, then yeah, I absolutely love Chris Paul as another piece here for cash. 6 point per dollar value, averaging 1.23 fantasy points per minute when he does play. And again, this game should be competitive, so we should see him all the way through the entirety of this game down the stretch. Mikal Bridges, 28.6% ownership. Love the upside in terms of minutes, and he only played 30 and scored very well. We were waiting for this type of game from Mikal Bridges. I just love the minute upside with Mikal Bridges, nothing more. As long as he's on the court, he has opportunities to score, and that's really what it comes down to. Only averaging 0.8 fantasy points per minute, same thing as Rocco, but also only $5,000 and a pace down spot. It's just the fact that he's always out there. I definitely don't mind him for GPPs. And Booker was on fire last game, didn't have to play his entire 40 minutes, but if he does play 40 minutes, yeah, he's another cash option, showing the second highest on this team next to Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton has been crushing it. His price tag is a little too aggressive now, only a 5.5 point per dollar value, but I don't hate him as a GPP option. Jay Crowder, 4.9K, definitely don't mind him as a last piece, but again, only averaging about 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Playing projected 32 minutes, he's just kind of there. I'm not really thrilled about any of these plays other than Chris Paul and then Mikal Bridges for GPP. Last but not least, the Lakers. Again, a huge what-if scenario we're going to talk about here. If AD is out, then yes, I'm going to be loading up LeBron James. He is technically the highest owned guy on the slate, assuming that AD does sit. However, I think AD plays, and it looks like they just updated AD's minutes to 35, so it looks like Fantasy Cruncher expects him to play as well. But talk about great GPP options. If you're looking for one-offs, like Anthony Davis at 9.4K, if he suits up, is going to be a fantastic GPP play. Nobody's going to be on him. And then the rest of these guys fall by the wayside. There's really no real threat for any of these guys breaking the slate other than LeBron James and AD. If AD does sit, then yes, Kyle Kuzma becomes an intriguing cash option. And again, we will be updating our Patreon ownerships here once that news does break, and assuming that AD does sit, then Kyle Kuzma will be one of the higher owned guys on the slate at 4.8K. Same thing with LeBron James at 10.1K. It was extremely disappointing in his last matchup because they got blown out. But guys, he got over a 30% usage and scored 42.25 points in 32 minutes. So if you do the math, he easily hits value, assuming that he plays up close to 40 minutes, and his usage probably is higher down the stretch. So LeBron James, a fantastic play if AD sits. But we're going to assume that AD does play on the slate. Michael Porter Jr., CJ McCollum, like all these guys are fantastic cash options targeting this Portland-Denver game for upside. But let's go ahead and switch over to the prize pick board. I will be putting together a core and lineup at the very end of this video, so stay tuned. If you guys haven't signed up for prize picks, first of all, enter code using DGF just for watching this video. One of the best ways to play DFS today. If you don't feel like putting together a lineup and doing a bunch of research, it's just as simple as picking one or two players, hitting the over or under on their fantasy projections. And we provide prize pick fantasy projections on our website. So if you guys want to check that out, only $20 a month gives you access to all of that and so much more. Taking a look at the board here, there's one player that sticks out to me by far. I need to find him first. Chris Paul at 30.5. I'm going to hit the over on that every single time, assuming he plays his full minutes. We haven't projected to hit the over 58.95% of the time per our models, and just seems like the easiest lock for me on prize picks. Again, guys, enter code using DGF. It helps us out, helps you guys out, and you get $100 free just to play prize picks and test it out. Now let's go ahead and switch over to the DraftKings board and start building my lineup. Give you guys a mindset of what I'm going to do going into the slate. If I'm playing one single lineup, again, I play multiple lineups. It is probably the only way to play DFS today. I've talked about that many times on our channel. If you guys are looking to become a better DFS player, go ahead and follow our playlist, DFS 101 playlist, and I teach you guys how to use ownerships to your advantage, how to place top in your GPP lineups, and all that and so much more. So again, that's completely free to the public if you guys want to head over to the YouTube playlist there. But let's go ahead and start out by building our lineups. My favorite plays on the slate, CJ McCollum. I'm probably going to go a mid-tier build, even though Damian Lillard's going to completely embarrass me tonight if I fade him. Chris Paul is next on the list. I love Chris Paul tonight at his price tag. Point guard, shooting guard. Monty Morris is another good one. I'm going to prioritize Michael Porter Jr., however. I feel like that is an obvious play. Michael Porter Jr. Nurkic. I do like Nurkic. Let's go ahead and slide him in there. Nurkic, 54. You know what? Let's go ahead and put Monty Morris in there just because. Let's see if that does anything. Opens up some more salary for me. 4,700. Dare I go back to Robert Covington? Has been safe as of late. I do like Mikal Bridges, but I'm probably going to slide... let's put Covington in there. I'm riding the Portland train tonight with the exception of Damian Lillard. How scary is that? Booker, Mikal Bridges, Ayton. Let's put Bridges in there and see what that does. Seriously, a mid-tier build. And $6,900 left over. Nice. For the util spot, that doesn't really do much for me. I'm going to get rid of Bridges. Let's put in Booker. Can I even do that? It's going to leave me with some scrub. Forward for 37. Caldwell Pope at 36. I don't hate that. I don't hate that if AD sits. I can tell you that. Millsap. All right, let's try to find another mid-range. Let's go Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder, come on. I don't think that'll do much for me, honestly. 61, yeah. All right, guys, I'm struggling here. Jay Crowder. Who's next on the list here? Carmelo Anthony. It just goes to show you, like, these builds are going to be very interesting if you're doing a mid-range value. Like, there's really not too much to pay down for. It's going to be very hard to pay up for, like, LeBron, Jokic, Damian Lillard today. Going to be even harder. I might just go Austin Rivers. High minute upside there. 74. Can't do that either. Wow. How about Powell? I'm thinking minutes here, guys. Minutes. 61 for Campazzo, Schroeder. Do I back it up and get rid of Morris? Regardless, like this is probably going to be close to my core. Chris Paul, McCollum, Porter, Covington, Nurkic. You know what? I might have to like just put Jermichael Green in as a flyer because he's been playing a decent amount of minutes here. Let's put Green in there because I did like that build probably the most earlier. Green and then Devin Booker. I mean, I definitely don't hate that. That has a lot of upside. Yeah. I mean, this would probably be a good build here for GPP, obviously, with Michael Green not carrying any ownership, Monty Morris being lower owned. The rest of these guys are actually showing decent amount of ownership, so this would be a small GPP entry for sure. I'm leaving 400 on the table. But yeah, I definitely don't hate that build. If you guys are backing up here and getting different from this build, my core would probably be something like this: Chris Paul, McCollum, Porter, and Nurkic. It looks like the one place to be sharp and fade is at the center spot. Like, imagine if I went Ayton as opposed to Nurkic. I think that opens up a little bit more in terms of opportunity. Like, if AD sits, like Marc Gasol is going to be a plug and play. Drummond would be a great spot. But yeah, I think that's the overall way that I'm going. There's not too many center options on the slate. That's crazy. Jokic, like, you're going to have to pay up somewhere. Yeah, tonight's tough. But yeah, I think that lineup I put in would be a decent build here if you're playing smaller GBPs. But that will end my video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.